Welcome to VoteProPot-Cast, brought to you by VoteProPot.com. Adult use in New York is dead, at least for now. A California man admits having pot-filled suitcase on a plane. A new credit card for cannabis purchases. An Indiana man gets his entire church high on weed cookies. U.S. Cannabis Employment is expected to jump 34% in 2019. And we have a report on the state of cannabis cultivation in the U.S. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Vote Pro Podcast. I'm Phil Adams.
I'm Jay Britton.
And I'm Andrew McCready.
And we're going to start off today with something that kind of slipped past under the radar. Jay, you have a story about, coming out of the USDA.
Yeah, I've read this article a couple times, and I couldn't believe that I hadn't heard anything about it. It's been a couple weeks now. The article's titled, "The USDA legalized THC, but nobody noticed." So I thought, this is out of realmoney.com by Deborah Borkart. Mm-hmm. And here's the deal. So we all know that the 2018 Farm Bill was passed several months back. And what that did, for those of you who don't know, is it made hemp legal. So you can grow hemp, process hemp, but you couldn't move it across state lines. So that we all have talked about it. That's created a lot of problems. Anyway, the USDA issued a bulletin, which is kind of an update on the legalities and how they interpret them with regard to hemp. Here's what the bulletin says. Quote, "By amending the definition of marijuana to exclude hemp, Congress has removed hemp from Schedule 1 and removed it entirely from the Controlled Substance Act. Also, by amending Schedule 1 to exclude THC in hemp, Congress has likewise removed THC in hemp from the Controlled Substance Act." So, what does that mean? According to this article and many people, what it means is that farmers can now obviously grow hemp, they can process the hemp, and they can ship it across state lines. Great. But it also says, the way you interpret this, that even though THC is whatever it is, 0.3% of hemp, it can still be processed. So the way this is read right now, and I'm sure it'll end up in a court, is these farmers can grow their hemp, can process CBD, they can also extract the THC, process it, sell it, and ship it across state lines, according to this bulletin, and how the bulletin is basically an amendment to the Farm Bill. So what do you think of that?
Isn't that interesting?
And why haven't we heard it, really? I mean, I've seen
So the amount of THC is irrelevant?
It's irrelevant because hemp is excluded. Hemp is defined as anything with, 0.3% THC or less? But that doesn't mean you can't, even though it's a very small volume within each plant, that doesn't mean you can't extract THC from the plant. And we all know hemp's pretty cheap to grow. So you would obviously going to need a lot more
plants. Kind of crazy. You'd have to grow 50 acres.
Not necessarily.
Of hemp to get the amount of THC at 0.3% that you would when you're growing 30%.
Well, that's true. But that's not the point. The point is it can be done, and it's going to create, because once it's processed, once you have the THC in whatever form, an oil form or whatever it is, there's no way to tell whether it came from a hemp plant or from a marijuana plant, right?
Now, I'm no lawyer, but this seems to me to be one of those things that those in the legal profession know as a loophole.
Exactly.
This is an opening in the law where the law is not precise.
Right, exactly.
Once it's classified as hemp, the whole plant and everything in it, including the THC, is legal.
Exactly.
And I think you're right when you say that this is going to end up in court. Someone's going to make a BFD about this, and it'll end up in court, and someone is going to decide whether hemp is exclusive of THC or inclusive of THC. because right now the law is ambiguous on it. So that's what it seems like to me. I'd have to give, an actual attorney's advice on that, but I'm not growing it and shipping it, so it's not my problem. But
Andrew's point is well taken. It may not matter. I mean, if you have to, process 300,000 tons of hemp just to get, a vial of THC oil, then it's not going to matter. No one's going to be able to afford to do it. I don't know what those numbers work out to, but legally, it's very clear, actually, Phil. It's pretty clear. It says that the hemp plant and all the compounds in it are now legal. Well, THC is one of the compounds.
Right. Yeah, we're not talking about the practicality of the matter. We're talking about the legality.
Well, and the bulletin expresses that specifically. It says, and it did not exclude THC from the hemp plant. It says it right in the bulletin. That pretty much says you can pull the THC out if you want and market it, process it, market it, take it across state lines. So we'll keep an eye on this.
Well, folks, we really want to hear from you, and we really hope that you will stay informed, get involved, and one great place to start is to check us out at our website, VoteProPot.com.
Send us an email at podcast@VoteProPot.com. And guys, guess what? Today is our 1-year anniversary.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, happy anniversary to you guys.
We've been doing this show for, not Andrew and I, no, the show. We've been doing Vote Pro Podcast for 1 year.
Sorry I didn't get you guys anything.
Yeah, me either. I didn't realize it till about an hour ago.
Well, there we are, 1 year anniversary. And thank you to all our listeners and downloaders for being interested and keeping us interested, quite frankly.
Absolutely.
Please like and follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Just do a search for Vote Pro Pot.
The bad news on the legal front is that New York's adult use cannabis legislation is now dead. Apparently, there was too many devils and too many details, and despite a last-minute kind of a push to get it done, the lawmakers could not agree on certain components of the bill. It's called the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act. They found themselves unable to get it passed. And this is despite the fact that the New York governor, Cuomo, has come out in favor of legalization, despite the fact that recent polling shows a strong majority of New Yorkers support legalization. They still couldn't get this done. So this is just, I think it has less to do with the politics of legalization and more to do with the kind of inside baseball that goes on with legislation and all the competing interests trying to get their stamp on it,
All the backroom deals?
Right.
I would think so, yeah.
So is it that the regulations that they wrote up are just, they're not going to pass them, or they're not going to pass as they stand now? They have to continue to negotiate?
Well, apparently the sponsors of the bill found themselves kind of caught between trying to cajole these hesitant lawmakers and their own commitment to, the progressive measures. There's a lot of compromising that had to be done, and
nobody wanted to compromise.
And on certain sticking points. Now this article is from Leafly. It doesn't really get too deep into the details of it, but one of the apparently sticking points in the bill concerned an allocation of what they are anticipating to be $300 million in annual tax revenue. So the devil's in the details. It usually means the devil's in the money. The bill sponsors intended to direct a certain percentage of the funds towards communities most harmed by the war on drugs, while the governor, Cuomo, according to the New York Times, wanted to put control of the funds in the hands of the executive branch.
Shocker.
So it's really, it's territory. They're being territorial. They're looking at $300 million in annual tax revenues.
Everybody wants to control
and the legislature wants to control that money, and the governor's office, the state house, wants to control that money, and they couldn't agree on who's going to have control over that money.
Well, who controls the tax revenues from alcohol and gambling?
I don't know.
That's a good question, though. Why wouldn't it be the same?
Right. I mean, if the executive branch controls it all, why should someone else take cannabis?
Right.
And if if alcohol taxes are distributed through some other board, then they should set up the same kind of system for cannabis.
You would think, right? That makes too much sense.
You would think. But whatever it was, they were unable to agree on it. They were also unable to agree on whether the counties would be expected to opt in or to opt out of cannabis sales.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, what is the default position? Are you, is it legal in your county or is it not legal? So that they couldn't agree on whether the default language
Gotcha.
was one or the other. So there's other details, but
I don't think county's going to make it illegal. They just won't make it sales available.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could smoke it in that county.
Well, that's what I meant. Available sales,
and also they'll probably do it, but like with alcohol, it's going to be more like townships and as opposed to counties. Although there are dry counties.
Mm-hmm. So what happened? I mean, what does this lead to? How long is it going to be before comes around again and there's another bill or new legislation written up next session?
I think they just need to wait till the next legislative session to bring it up again. State Senator Liz Kroiger of Manhattan was one of the original sponsors of the bill. She said, quote, "We came very close to crossing the finish line, but we ran out of time." So I guess they need to bring this, reintroduce it in the new
they need to
session.
Get out of the session and get to their 4-month summer vacation or whatever it is.
They need to go on vacation and mull it over on the Jersey Shore.
Haven't had a vacation in a couple months. It's time to get out of Manhattan.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have an article out of Canada. Canada's always in the news. What do you got, Andrew?
Canada just released the regulations for the edible industry. And as it turns out, it's pretty straightforward. And I think it's good that they did this. And I think you're going to see more. You're going to see this in the United States. Basically what they're saying, they're breaking it down between your solid edibles, meaning just like cookies and candies or whatever.
Okay.
And then you have your beverages. And then you have your ingested, which I think is like RSO oils, like that. So what they're saying is for all three, they can each packet or every serving can be no more than 10 milligrams of THC. Well, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Now, as far as the ingested, which means the RSO oils,
they're talking about sublinguals and things like that.
Well, that's what I think they're talking about. Yes. There's a maximum of 1,000 milligrams of THC per package.
Per container, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as far as product rules, they're all the same. Basically, no added vitamins or minerals, which doesn't make any sense. You can't add vitamins. I mean, we want to, anyway. Limits on caffeine. So you can put some chemicals. You can mix it with another drug. but it can only be limited. And no added alcohol. Now, as far as the ingested, it says no added vitamins or minerals, no sugars or colors or sweeteners, or no nicotine or caffeine added. So you can add caffeine in like a gummy, but you can't, have caffeine in an oil, ingestible oil, decarboxylated oil. Now, as far as packaging is concerned, they basically both say have to be child resistant and plain packaging. Now, as far as the ingested stuff, they go on to say a maximum packages can have no more than 90 milliliters of liquid extract. So that's like 3.5 ounces. So
the bottle can't
get what that means, but I guess what it is like your tropical sublinguals, it can't get more than 3.5 ounces. Well, I guess whatever.
Yeah.
Child resistant, must be plain packaging. Must have a dispensing device if not in unit form. So in other words, must have a pump.
Gotcha.
So in other words, if it's lotion, you can't. I don't know. I guess that's kind of crazy if you ask me. Now, as far as labeling is concerned, standardized cannabis symbol should be on all of them. I think in Canada there's probably like a pot leaf, whatever, that warrants everyone that has THC in it. It must have a health warning. It must have the THC CBD ratio. Must have an ingredient list, allergens in there. The first two, not the RSO oils, but the other two have to have nutritional fact tables, which makes sense. Which, if any edible, you want the fact tables, you want the allergen, you want the ingredient list,
calories,
and any kind of intoxicant. Right, you want the potency, so you want the THC, and a health warning. I don't see where this is anything that outrageous
Nothing
at all.
earth-shaking here.
No, it sounds pretty standard and reasonable.
Yeah. Now, there is one more category, and that's just like an other category, and that is they must not be appealing to kids. So no Flint-stoned gummies.
What would be in the other category?
What kinds of things would the other category have?
Other that isn't labeling, packaging, or product rules.
I see what you mean.
That is, you can't make any health or dietary claims, and no element that would associate product with alcoholic beverage or a brand of alcohol, which is something we talked about earlier. We're saying that there are going to be some branding deals, or you might start seeing, Budweiser Buds or Robert Mondavi Cannabis, of some kind. But they're saying, no, you can't do that. Huh. So all these beverage companies that are coming in, like Molson and Labatt's and, Anheuser-Busch, they're not going to be able to use any of their brand names.
No kidding.
So they're going to have to start new brands from scratch.
So what about companies like Monster Energy Drink that is apparently considering going into cannabis beverages next year? They're full of caffeine. Are they not going to be able to do that? Or?
Well, according to these rules in Canada, they'll be able to market a product that has a limited amount of caffeine and use their brand name since they're not an alcoholic beverage company.
Since they're not alcoholic. Okay.
So there'll be a Red Bull, red and green Bull.
Yeah.
Red and green Bull. Green Bull.
Green Bull. There you go.
Good.
Dude, yeah. It's the opposite of Red Bull. A total 180-degree marketing. The other guy's flying through. The other one, Red Bull's flying with wings, and the other guy's
the Green Bull
spreading roots in a couch.
Sounds like that old joke about the old bull and the young bull. We'll save that for later.
Anyway, so these are, I think, realistic rules, and I think
definitely
that's what we have to embrace here in the United States. And every state is trying to come up, reinvent the wheel. When guys, it's really basically logical and reasonable what you need to do, and it's obvious.
Yeah, I think New York will get around to doing that in probably 2035, 2036, somewhere around there.
Did you guys see this article? Actually, it was in a bunch of places, but this idiot in California, some California guy, got on a plane to fly to West Virginia, of all places, and he got on the plane with a suitcase that contained 30 pounds of marijuana. How would you think you're not going to get caught? This is an AP article, and it's Huntington, West Virginia. A California man has admitted to having 30 pounds of marijuana in a suitcase aboard a plane heading to West Virginia. 22-year-old Gerardo Delgalillo Jr. entered a guilty plea Monday in federal court in Huntington for possession with intent to distribute.
Where was he arrested?
In West Virginia.
And he had flown from California with the weed?
It doesn't say that, but it says he's from California. So we can assume he got on a plane in California and flew all the way to West Virginia.
So was it a private plane or was it a commercial flight?
It doesn't say, but I would assume it's a commercial.
The question that's bugging me is, at what point did the authorities discover this? I mean, if it was on the plane, it must have gotten past security.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking 30 pounds. So it's not like,
there's nothing else in that suitcase. Right. I mean, if it's a carry-on bag, there's nothing else in that suitcase except maybe a vape pen stuck in the corner.
What kind of TSA security check did this guy get, Jeez.
But he was flying from one state to the other. He's not going through, these major international,
but you still have
customs checkpoints. They
definitely check your bags and, they roll it through the X-ray machine if you're going to take it on board and all that.
Well, yeah, they would have.
Maybe they would have got it
past the X-ray machine.
If it was a commercial flight, they would have got him in California. So obviously, it was probably either out of a real minor airport or a private plane. I think with the gray market, there's probably they're buying it legally all over, and they're flying it, in private planes all around. I mean, it seems to me going to be hard to catch.
Well, it says here he landed at Tri-State Airport in Canova. So you're right. It's some little rinky-dink airport, I assume.
Right.
He probably thought he could slide it through, you know.
And I'd be willing to bet that wasn't his first bag of suitcase full of weed.
And he probably took off at one of those little airports out in California too, you know.
So this is a big deal now, the gray market. I mean, we're talking about how Hong Kong and China now this week announced that legal marijuana in the United States and Canada is making its way into their country, and they're now deeming it a problem. Because, I mean, it's one thing to find a couple joints, but they're finding hundreds and hundreds of pounds of commercial packaged product.
Right.
Yeah, well, considering all the fentanyl they're pouring across our border, I think the Chinese are getting off pretty well. So.
Well, we're talking Hong Kong too, and I'm sure there's other countries in the East, so all over, not just that one country. I'm sure it's making illegal American weed is making its way all over the world.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. That kind of leads us to the cannabis growers.
Okay, I've been very fortunate recently. I went to the Baltimore Science Cannabis Conference, and I was talking to someone from the Cannabis Business Times, and I am now a subscriber to the magazine. Now, along with that, they just issued the 2019 State of the Industry Report examining the cannabis cultivation market. Now, now they've been tracking it since 2016, and there's a lot of information in here, a lot of charts, a lot of graphs. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to sort of break it down to like one point, and in future podcasts, I'll refer this as a reference because I could sit here and list stats all day, and it'll just be boring. It'll be like talking about Milton Friedman's economic plans.
Oh, stop.
Anyway.
Hey, man, I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you did. Basically, what they're showing is that over the years, in 2016, 80% of the legal cannabis grown in the United States was grown in warehouses, and 34% was grown in greenhouses, and 37% was grown outdoors. Now, in 2017, that 80% of the weed grown in warehouses dropped to 76%. Now, in 2018, that dropped to 65%. In 2019, it dropped to 59%. Wow. So what's happening with more and more legalization, the wholesale price is dropping in a lot of states. And all these people, I guess their original calculations, or when they wrote out their business plan, they thought they were going to be selling it at a certain amount. Well, now it's half that, and they're sort of scrambling to see how they can cut costs. And the big costs in growing cannabis indoors is electricity. It just costs 10 times, we said last week, by square foot, a cannabis grower uses 10 times the power that a office building does. So It's incredible. So over the same time, we're seeing an slow increase in greenhouses. Because as it's turning out, the natural sun is great and it's free, So right now, I see a lot of activity, around at all the cannabis expos and trade publications. There's greenhouse companies just going crazy, coming up with every week. There's a new innovation, something new. And the other trend, and this is just gradually just getting bigger and bigger, and that's outdoor grows. In 2016, it was 37%, and in 2019, it's 42%. Now it sort of had a up in peaks and valleys path to where it is now, but they're definitely seeing a major tendency towards outdoor grow. Now, also, I think there was a MedMen or someone just bought the largest outdoor grow in Nevada company there. And so what you're going to see is they've really sort of, I think, figured out that they're growing great weed outdoors. And I guess when it comes to pests and plant disease and stuff, they just have to deal with it. Yeah. Indoors easier, but outdoors better.
Like all other farmers do.
We're going to see a great trend towards that. And along with that, you're going to see the development of an appellation system. So you'll be able to say, because who cares? That warehouse can be anywhere growing a specific strain, and it's going to be the same. But if it's grown outdoors, it's going to be unique to that geographic area. So like That's wine, we're going to start seeing Mendocino County, or Hoboken County, or we're going to be, you'll probably see some great stuff out of West Virginia eventually. And and that's why Washington and Oregon, states that have good wine are probably going to have great cannabis industries as well.
Interesting.
So as far as the industry is concerned, if you're in the industry, whether you're vertically integrated, I guess you might want to take this into account and try to put all your future grow investments away from warehouses. Warehouses decreased 21% over the last 4 years. Wow. Greenhouses increased by 4% and outdoor increased by 5%.
So where's the future? Is it more greenhouse, you think, or more outdoor?
Well, in some states, it's going to be outdoor because they're going to have the climate for it.
Right.
But in some states, they really don't have the growing season and climate. So you're going to see greenhouses. I think greenhouse technology is going to go even crazier. And what I think the long-term effect of this is that I think you're going to see some of these growers go full circle and start growing food again. Mm-hmm. They're learning how to maximize the crop and the quality with a minimal amount of water. And I think in some areas that could, that's a big deal in agriculture, period, whatever you're growing.
Employment in the cannabis industry is also going up, up, up. This is a report out of Marijuana Business Daily, and it includes a chart. And we'll share this on our Facebook page, but it shows that U.S. cannabis employment is expected to grow 34% in 2019 over last year. Wow. From somewhere between 160,000 to possibly over 200,000. And now this chart compares some of the other full-time workers in the cannabis industry compared to mainstream professions. For example, cannabis industry will have more workers than there are web developers, more than flight attendants, much more than veterinarians, more than just about anyone except clergy, apparently, which is there's a lot of. Now, of course, this chart compares individual professions with the entire cannabis industry, so it's really not a fair comparison.
Still.
So, I mean, it's a lot more than flight attendants, but when you consider that the airline industry employs more than 10 million people, then, you're comparing apples to apples there.
Well, what about the bud tenders to flight attendants? Then that would be comparable to me.
Right.
Well, it would be, and probably there are more flight attendants. So if you measure it that way, but still,
well, isn't a bud tender kind of a flight attendant?
I hadn't thought of that, man.
That's deep.
But the exciting thing here is that the numbers year over year are 34% growth is not insignificant. Sure. That's a pretty big jump.
Huge.
That's huge.
So that's any other profession that had a 35% increase, it'd be all over the front page of Wall Street Journal. I'm sure of it. So that's pretty good news. So moving in the right direction.
Apparently, cannabis does affect the way fish swim.
Yeah, that's right. This is an article called Weed and Fertility, 5 Things Scientists Want You to Know by Jeff Parsons. I got this off a site called metro.co.uk over in the United Kingdom. Writing in a Canadian Medical Association journal, researchers have presented studies on how marijuana impacts fertility. Quote, for most couples, smoking marijuana does not affect their ability to conceive. However, for couples with infertility, the changes in ovulatory function and sperm count associated with the smoking marijuana could compound their difficulty in conceiving. So here are the 5 things scientists want you to know about marijuana and fertility. Number 1, the active ingredient in marijuana, THC, acts on the receptors found in the hypothalamus, pituitary, and internal reproductive organs in both males and females. Number 2, marijuana can decrease sperm count. Smoking marijuana more than once a week was associated with a 29% reduction in sperm count in one study. Number 3, marijuana may delay or prevent ovulation. In a small study, ovulation was delayed in women who smoked marijuana more than 3 times in 3 months. Number 4, marijuana may affect the ability to conceive in couples with subfertility or infertility, but does not appear to affect couples without fertility issues. So, number 5 is just more studies need to be done. So, I don't know if that affects any of the three of us particularly, but
no.
So it just slows the little guys down, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, well,
if it's interesting. Also, how does hormones affect? How does cannabis affect hormones? Mm-hmm. Is that what they're sort of saying here?
Well, on other studies we've read and we've done reports on, there's no question there's a correlation between THC and estrogen. And they're still studying it, but they have found that we did stories on how women are affected completely different in a completely different way from THC than men are.
Right.
So
I guess for baby boomers, this is really not a big story. Not a big deal. Got no skin in this game, guys. No. And in fact, in some ways, hey, what do you mean? So there's a less chance of me getting someone pregnant?
Perfect.
Well, okay, that's another side effect that might not be a detriment.
Apparently, the regulations regarding edibles probably could have done some good in Indiana. This is an article from Vice.com. A 70-year-old man has apparently been accused of getting his entire church high on weed. Now, this fellow is a member of St. John's Apostle Catholic Church in Bloomington, Indiana. Last year, there were at least 6 congregation members thought they were indulging in some sinfully delicious cookies. As it turned out, they were correct. The 70-year-old parishioner, identified only as Mr. Jones, is now accused of lacing the cookies with THC. Several of the congregants, some as young as 12 and some as old as 70, ended up in the local emergency room that day complaining of, quote, adverse effects from the cookies, which they reported as tasting unusually salty. Now,
right, so only 6 of them went to the hospital, so they were just wimps and couldn't handle their weed.
That's right. Well, the rest of them were just grooving, on the sermon, I guess. And
so was it an accident, does it say?
Well, he initially admitted to making the cookies, but he denied adding anything illegal to them.
Right.
But then the police obtained a warrant to search his home and found an orange pill bottle containing capsules of a brown, oily substance, which later tested positive for marijuana. I guess that's where the saltiness came. I don't know where they tasted extra salty, but...
well, he probably used salted butter and added salt. That's a lot of
that's a lot of extra
home
salt,
bakers make that mistake. When you bake, you should always use unsalted butter. But
thank you.
So I've done the people that I know who make edibles, and I've never once in my years ever heard anyone say, "Let's go sneak these to people who don't want them."
No,
and
right.
also
That's a good point, Andrew. That's right.
Well, 2 reasons. A lot of people that's an asshole thing to do,
Right.
And secondly, it can be an expensive thing to do. Most people are going, "I'm not going to share my weed with people I know." Now, I know want to get high. Why should I give it to someone I don't know doesn't want to get high?
And it's going to be expensive for Mr. Jones as well, because he ended up turning himself in after a warrant was issued for his arrest. And he's been charged with criminal recklessness, and that's a fair charge, and possession of hash oil, which is still illegal in Indiana. Mm-hmm. And... so it's going to end up costing him something as well.
I wonder what his motivation was. I mean,
I think it was an accident.
I don't know.
I think he just grabbed the wrong box of cookies, took it to church, and now and his lawyer says don't make any comment, and he's not commenting on it. It was an accident. Now the altar boys in Italy that put the weed in the incense burner and try to hot box the whole church.
That was hilarious.
That wasn't an accident.
No. Well,
I need to start going to church, man.
The Father Daniel Mann of the St. John's Apostle Catholic Church said, "We are praying for everyone involved. We're praying for Mr. Jones. We are keeping in prayer those who took ill that Sunday And we are praying for justice with mercy.
And donuts, man. We're praying for donuts.
And I guess Mr. Jones has learned his lesson. It's how the cookie crumbles.
Good one. Good one, Phil. Okay, there's a New York-based company, Columbia Care, a vertically integrated company that has a presence in 12 states. They've just launched the Colombian National Credit Program to broaden its payment options for its customers. So they've only started this in the one dispensary in New York, I believe, and it's basically a credit card. I guess you can, I think it's more like a debit card, where you probably put money on the account and then go to the dispensary and they swipe it and that's it. Mm-hmm. Now, it seems to me that it doesn't really say how farther that's going to go. As far as how that money is being handled. It doesn't go into detail, but it does go into detail about the whole, there's a bill up for, it's the Safe Banking Act,
right,
which is really going to approach this issue. But I think this is sort of neat. I know I told you this before. I told the one dispensary, you guys need to get gift cards. And then the next time I went in there, they had these little gift cards you can get. Now, I don't know if it's the same as what these guys are doing. I think there's a company out there that's doing this on the small scale for individual dispensaries, maybe. Mm-hmm. But
well, it sounds like this is not a prepaid card, like a gift card. This is a credit card,
right? I think it's more like a debit card. You got to have money in the account to use it.
Okay.
I doubt if you could I can get one of these. I can go buy a bunch of weed on credit. I don't know if there's a company out there going, we'll give all these stoners, they'll pay us later. Sure.
Yeah,
so this card is only good at dispensaries then? You can't use it
at the one dispensary, yeah.
Oh, at one, okay.
So now, I don't know. So when the Banking Act goes by, is there going to be a credit card company that's going to come out and go, hey guys, and are they going to start offering, perks and stuff? You're going to get this certain one cannabis, you get cannabis points.
Right. Like frequent flyer miles.
Right. Who knows?
And or are you going to have a gold card, or, are you going to do the green card, the purple card, what? Where you get extra, benefits?
Yeah. What's in your wallet? Well, folks, tell us what you think about these debit cards, credit cards, or any other of the topics we've touched on today, or really any cannabis-related question, comment, correction, insight, or other comment that you might have. Check us out, if you would please, at VoteProPot.com.
Send us an email at podcast@VoteProPot.com. or call our message line at 240-257-2441.
And please like, follow, and share us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And now, starting this week, we just opened an account on Instagram. And that's right, you could be our first follower. Woohoo! Woohoo! So just please do a search for Vote Pro Pot.
Wish I was up in Vancouver at the Cannabis Cafe, smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning of the day. But here I am in New York City, hiding out in Central Park, getting kidnapped by the police today sometime before dark. But I wish I was up in Vancouver at the Cannabis Cafe, smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning of the day. The judge looked down upon me, frowned. He said, kid, get on your way. Just don't start out your morning with espresso and a J. I said, I wish I was up in Vancouver at the Cannabis Cafe, smoking good old Sensimilla at the beginning cruised on out to Portland. Caught a ride up to BC. Took the bus over to the neighborhood to have a bowl with my coffee. Now I'm up in Vancouver at the Cannabis Cafe, smoking good old Sensimedia at the beginning of the day. Smoking good old Sensimedia